2024 is almost a wrap, so here are Man and Many's picks for the top 5 best and worst movies of the year. This isn't a definitive list, there's just no way to see every new release, but these are our most memorable and regrettable cinematic experiences from the last 12 months. Madam Web. Without this movie, we wouldn't have immortal dialogue like,
"He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died."
So we're kind of glad that it exists, but it really is awful. Plus, it's hard to imagine stars like Dakota Johnson, Adam Scott, and Sydney Sweeney knew they were signing up to be part of Sony's Marvel-adjacent offering rather than the main event MCU. June Part 2. After Denis Villeneuve knocked his first June installment out of the park, we were praying he wouldn't drop the ball with his second outing. We needn't have worried. Further exploring one of the richest science fiction universes ever created, June Part 2 has the spice and the substance needed to ensure we're more than on the hook for the third installment, June Messiah, now in the works. Joker, Folie à Deux. Look, the first Joker movie was self-important rubbish, so watching fans of that film have a fit over this sequel's musical approach has been fun to watch. Saying that, Joker Folie à Deux bombed at the box office in such a deservedly spectacular style that at least we don't have to worry about a third serving of this franchise's completely hollow allusions to prestige cinema. The Wild Robot. The movie that finally saw DreamWorks overtake a seemingly stagnating Pixar, The Wild Robot is one of the most spectacular animated films we've ever seen. A mix of gorgeous visuals, stellar voice acting, and some surprisingly dark humour that balances the usual sentimentality, The Wild Robot is our pick for animated movie of the year. The Crow. A movie that really didn't need to be made, this attempt to rescue the Crow franchise from its status as a once straight to DVD, now straight to streaming affair, has instead all but cemented its fate. This kind of vengeance-seeking power fantasy has been executed so much better by the likes of John Wick that we're hoping the titular Crow will now just fly off into the sunset. The Zone of Interest. This flick landed in Australian cinemas in February, but we're still thinking about it. Juxtaposing the petty domestic concerns of a Nazi officer's family life with the unseen horrors we know he's overseeing on the other side of that barbed wire fence, The Zone of Interest is a masterful illustration of the mundanity of evil. Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. Zack Snyder originally pitched the Rebel Moon script to Lucasfilm as a more adult take on Star Wars, but they turned it down. You know it's bad when the people who okayed The Rise of Skywalker say your script sucks. So the second part of this not quite Star Wars battle between rebels and space Nazis continues with the painfully self-serious tone and endlessly unnecessary slow motion. It just left us exhausted and bored. Rebel Ridge. When one man's effort to post bail for his cousin goes wrong, he's forced to enter a game of escalation with the local police chief and his heavily armed officers. This flick will have you firmly in its grasp from start to finish, and while it caught us off guard, seeing as the director also made 2015's outstanding Green Room, maybe it shouldn't have. Unfrosted. Rather than the big comeback he'd hoped for, Jerry Seinfeld's take on the Pop-Tarts origin story turned out to be as soggy as his tired stand-up routines. Further cementing already widespread suspicions that Larry David was the real genius behind the Seinfeld sitcom's magic, Unfrosted's only laughs come from the cameos that Jerry's friends probably agreed to film out of pity. Better luck next year, Jerry. We have a great horror flick for our last inclusion, but this was hotly contested by Terrifier 3's Art the Clown and his gallery of gore, as well as James McAvoy's mesmerisingly menacing appearance in Speak No Evil. Both deserve an honourable mention, but instead we're going with The Substance and its acutely effective and timely take on body horror. Director Coralie Fajar's flair for the gloriously grotesque remains front and centre, while Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley are both outstanding in a film that's every bit as clever as it is stomach-churning. Give it a watch, and in 2024 with a bang.